Welcome to Trend Reddit, where I share interesting, useful, and inspiring content. Let's explore the world together through the videos I create. Don't forget to click the follow button so you don't miss anything new. Thank you for visiting and hope we have great experiences together. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the quaint, bustling neighborhood where Mrs. Evelyn had spent much of her life. As she approached the familiar restaurant, a wave of nostalgia washed over her. Today was special, it was her birthday, and she had celebrated this day at this very establishment for years. The scent of freshly baked bread and roasted coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the laughter of families enjoying their meals. The soft chatter and clinking of glasses created a cozy atmosphere that felt like home. Mrs. Evelyn, an elderly black woman with a graceful presence, had always been greeted with warmth and kindness by the staff. She envisioned the familiar faces that would wish her a happy birthday, but as she stepped through the door, a strange feeling washed over her. Instead of the welcoming smiles she anticipated, a young, new waiter stood at the entrance, his eyes darting away from hers as if she were invisible. "Good evening," she said brightly, hoping to catch his attention. "I have a reservation under Evelyn." The waiter barely looked up. "There's no table available," he replied coldly, his tone dismissive. Confusion flickered in Evelyn's eyes, quickly replaced by the unsettling realization of the prejudice that lay beneath his words. She could feel the weight of her past, the echoes of countless injustices flooding back. Mrs. Evelyn took a step closer to the young waiter, her voice steady as she introduced herself. "I've been coming here for years. I have a reservation for tonight." She offered a warm smile, hoping to bridge the gap between them. But the waiter remained unmoved, his expression a mask of indifference. "There are no available tables," he said flatly, his tone laced with a hint of hostility. Evelyn's heart sank as she felt the chill of his words. She glanced around the bustling restaurant, noting several empty tables scattered throughout the dining area. Confusion creased her brow, and she took a deep breath, trying to mask her growing unease. "Excuse me, but I see plenty of empty tables," she said, her voice firm yet polite. "I would like to be seated, please." The waiter crossed his arms, his posture defensive. "I don't think you belong here," he stated bluntly, the prejudiced undertone clear in his voice. A wave of hurt washed over Evelyn, and she felt her heart race. Memories of past injustices began to resurface, moments where she had faced discrimination simply because of the color of her skin. Evelyn's mind raced as she struggled to process the waiter's dismissive attitude. Though wearied by years of fighting for equality, a surge of determination ignited within her. "I'd like to speak to the manager," she asserted, her voice unwavering. She would not be silenced or pushed aside. Evelyn stood her ground, waiting for the waiter to react. The tension in the air thickened as he stared at her, his hostility palpable. "You don't need to bother the manager," he said dismissively, rolling his eyes. "I've already told you, there's no table for you." "I understand my rights," she replied, her heart pounding. "I have a reservation, and I demand to be seated." The determination in her voice surprised even her. Years of fighting for respect and dignity had prepared her for this moment. She couldn't let this young man's prejudice ruin her birthday. The waiter scoffed, leaning in slightly as he narrowed his eyes. "You think you can just waltz in here? This is not your place." His words dripped with disdain, and Evelyn felt the weight of his judgment like a heavy shroud. As she tried to reason with him, the situation escalated. Other patrons began to notice, their whispers creating a ripple of awareness. Evelyn's hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the memories flooding her mind, moments of racial discrimination she had fought against throughout her life. Despite her weariness, a fire ignited within her. "I am here to celebrate my birthday, just like anyone else," she asserted, her voice rising with conviction. "I deserve to be treated with respect." With that, she took a deep breath, preparing to make her request known once more. She would not be intimidated, she would stand up for herself, no matter the cost. Moments later, the manager arrived, his demeanor initially calm. He scanned the room, but his expression shifted to recognition as his eyes landed on Evelyn. "Mrs. Evelyn!" "I didn't know you were here," he exclaimed, his voice warm and welcoming. "What seems to be the problem?" Before she could respond, the waiter interjected. "She thinks she deserves to be seated even though I told her there are no tables. She doesn't belong here." Evelyn felt a mix of emotions: gratitude for the manager's arrival, frustration at the waiter's accusation, and a renewed sense of purpose. "I made a reservation, and I expect to be treated like any other guest," she stated firmly, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Just then, James, the owner of the restaurant and the manager's son, rushed in. He had been alerted to the situation through social media posts that had quickly spread among the community. His face was etched with concern, but it morphed into anger as he took in the scene before him. "What is going on here?" James demanded, his voice rising as he focused on the waiter. "How dare you treat my mother like this?" The restaurant fell silent, all eyes fixed on the unfolding drama. The weight of his words hung in the air, palpable and powerful. Without hesitation, James confronted the waiter directly. "You're fired," he declared, the authority in his tone silencing any further protests. The shock resonated throughout the restaurant, and Evelyn felt a rush of relief mixed with pride. She wasn't alone in this fight, her son stood firmly by her side. As the words hung in the air, the crowd erupted in murmurs of shock and applause. Evelyn felt a wave of relief wash over her as James turned to address the diners and staff. "I want to make it clear that this restaurant will not tolerate any form of discrimination," he said, his voice resolute. "Everyone deserves respect, regardless of their race or background." The patrons began to clap, their support creating a ripple of solidarity in the once tense atmosphere. Evelyn's heart swelled with pride, not just for herself but for the collective stand against injustice that was unfolding before her. The warmth of the community's response enveloped her, and she felt the years of struggle and perseverance validate in that moment. "Thank you for your support," she said, looking around at the familiar faces in the crowd. "This isn't just about me, it's about all of us standing against prejudice and inequality." James continued, emphasizing that the restaurant would be implementing staff training to promote understanding and equality. "We will ensure that no one else has to face what my mother just experienced," he vowed, his determination echoing throughout the room. As the applause echoed around her, Evelyn felt a sense of belonging and hope. The incident had sparked a conversation that extended beyond the walls of the restaurant, as patrons shared their own stories of discrimination on social media. The power of the moment was undeniable, and Evelyn realized that her birthday, initially overshadowed by prejudice, had transformed into a beacon of hope and unity for the community. As the restaurant began to empty, James and Evelyn shared a quiet moment, reflecting on the unexpected turn of events. "I'm so proud of you, Mom," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "You showed incredible strength today." Evelyn smiled softly, her heart warmed by his words. "It's not just me, James. It's about all of us standing up for what's right. We have to keep pushing for change, even when it's difficult." She glanced around the now empty dining room, the remnants of the celebration lingering in the air, and felt a mix of gratitude and resolve. James nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "I'll make sure we implement the training and create a more inclusive environment," he promised. "This incident will not define us, it will drive us to do better." As they stepped outside, the cool evening air greeted them, a stark contrast to the heated emotions they had just experienced. The streets were alive with chatter, and Evelyn could hear snippets of conversations about the incident, the message spreading far beyond the restaurant's walls. Evelyn felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that their stand against discrimination would resonate within the community. This day, initially meant to celebrate her birthday, had become a milestone in their ongoing fight for justice. "Let's celebrate your birthday properly," James suggested, taking her arm. "How about we go to your favorite place for dessert?" Evelyn laughed, the earlier tension melting away. "I'd like that," she replied, her heart light. Together, they walked towards the future, reminded that their struggle for equality would continue to inspire others in the community. Thank you for reading this story. See you in a new and better story.